Hello, and welcome to the Splain. Dan Rothenberg and Joe Klosik, two guys trying to figure it out. Not the right wing, not the brosphere. Left of center, with humor and empathy.
Welcome to the Splain!
Welcome to the Splain. Hit subscribe and like our content.
Come on, people.
Hook us up. How are we doing? Are we growing in subscribers?
We're holding steady at the moment, and steady is good. No one is unsubscribed.
We're not losing anyone. Okay. What is a liberal dude now?
What is a liberal dude?
I've been thinking about that a lot lately. And first of all, what is it? Are we allowed to have dudes anymore? Is that just a social construct? That's one thing that I think we struggle with as liberal or left of center people is gender and sex are now a social construct. So what does it mean to be a man? Does it mean anything to be a man? What do you think, Joe?
Pass.
You're going to pass. Okay, we'll see you next week. We're hitting the tough issues.
Man,
pass.
I know it's, you know what it is? Okay, so what's fascinating is we are living in a very unique moment, for better or for worse, right? Like for 5,000 years of recorded human history, a man has been a man. That was not questioned. The man was in charge. And now, this brief little sliver of history which we are living in, suddenly, maybe what we've thought of as a man might not really be the definition of a man. And maybe guys shouldn't always be in charge just because they're guys.
In charge in what sense?
Like in charge of the family, in charge of a corporation, in charge of the tribe, in charge of making decisions for a nation, in charge, look, there's room for improvement.
Right, but I'm talking about so you're talking about equality, which of course men should be less in charge and women should be in high places of power as they are-ish. There's a bit of a downturn recently, I guess.
That's a fair way to put
politics and in terms of the cultural wave, we're in a backlash of that kind of progressive thinking. But I mean, like the idea of a man. I think we've all kind of deconstructed the idea that a man is always the breadwinner and a man is always the provider and a woman should stay home. Even your average Christian, correct me if I'm wrong,
I'm not an average Christian.
Mellowing on that. Women, they want their daughters to go to college.
Yeah.
And have careers.
I don't know. I don't know that they are mellowing on that, to be quite honest. I think Christianity is having a resurgence of old-fashioned views. And I think that's what they are. They're old-fashioned. And I think people... I think especially in times of great disruption and confusion, there is a big percentage of the population that's always going to reach backward to like, well, hey, that's how it's always been. Maybe we should try that again.
Yeah.
And, again, like there's no roadmap for what we're doing because it really is. I mean, it's been tried before in little bits and pieces here and there, and women have been in charge. I mean, there are some incredible examples through human history of when a woman was in charge and, surprise, surprise, got similar results to a man being in charge. But I think just going back to your basic question of like, what is a man today? That is such a loaded topic. And I honestly don't know that I can answer it in a short, pithy sentence,
Like, for instance, okay, WTF, Mark Maron. Let's take him for a second. Was that a man podcast? Was he, like, to me, he's a model of a certain type of man. And I'm mentioning him because he's a podcaster and he's somewhat popular and he is leans towards the left, and he talks about feelings and
Yeah.
Was WTF, which is going off the air, was that a left wing example of the manosphere or not?
I mean, look, if we're only looking through it, if we're looking at it through the lens of a podcast that a man is doing, and there's right wing and there's left wing, then yeah, I would say, he was a great example of left wing manosphere podcasting. I mean, he talked about his struggles with emotions. He talked about his struggles with empathy. He talked about his coming to terms with feelings and events in his past. I mean, that's not something you hear Joe Rogan talking about. It's, that's stupid, crush it.
As you're saying that, what we fail to do on the left is bond as men. We're come to an understanding of what a man is. In other words, on the right, they have their understanding. This is what a man is.
You can't go hunting for tofu, Dan. That's what we need.
Exactly.
We need like a weekend out in the woods.
I know.
With bows and arrows.
They have guns. We have Warrior 3.
We have... What's going on right now? What is that? You can't be doing yoga poses. Wow, look at that. That's pretty incredible balance and core strength.
Yeah. I mean, I'm all over.
Yeah.
It is incredible balance and core strength. It's not very confrontational. A quick nudge is going to throw me off balance.
Yeah. I mean, if someone was like, listen, you motherfucker, and you did that, you would definitely, it would change the dynamic of the encounter.
Okay, so here's my definition of a man. I'm just going to throw it out. I'm going to solve this.
Throw it on out, buddy.
This bullshit. I don't have to
Thank God. Thank God. Let's get it done.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you this. A man is someone who leads, takes responsibility, and stands up for truth, and is accountable. And I think where we get into perhaps we could call the lefty version of a man is we're also accountable for emotions, accountable for outbursts, accountable for listening. In other words, that's what I see a good evolution idea of what a man is. Leaving behind the men will be men. We're not going to listen. We're going to throw things. We're going to fight. I think that that needs to be. That is outdated. That is not a positive thing. Well,
I mean, I agree. I agree with you. It should be, but
so in other words, there's a lot of touchy-feely things that we need to reframe as manly because it's strength to identify the little vulnerable feelings underneath the anger iceberg. I don't know if you're familiar with that clinical image.
Iceberg?
Yes.
I didn't realize that was now a clinical term.
You've got the surface anger on top of the water, and then underneath it, you've got jealousy, fear, shame, all those difficult emotions. In other words, being vulnerable is manly. That's what I'm saying, and I believe that. Being vulnerable.
I don't want to feel those feelings, Dan. That's why they're below the surface. I don't have to see them, so then they're not real.
There you go.
Every once in a while, a shark comes up, and I'm like, "That's cool."
Yeah, which is fine, but it results in men becoming controlling and abusive.
Well, maybe that's what you say, but I'm cutting your microphone off.
Yeah. Well, wow, the truth is coming out.
No, I'm teasing, but you know what? It's interesting. I remember doing this exercise. Because, I work with men in early recovery, getting them ready to go back to work, and a lot of the clinical ideas that we use, are coming from cognitive behavioral therapy and things like that. And then I was working with a clinical psychologist one day, and he had them doing this exercise where, like, hey, give me words that you associate with being a man. and we were listing them all up there on this whiteboard, right? You know, tough, control, leader, you know, just very classic words that you would associate with being a man. And at the end of it, we had like 20 words, and he goes, isn't it interesting that nobody said vulnerable? Isn't it interesting that vulnerability is never a word that we associate with being a man? And, you know, these are guys that have been incarcerated or on the street, and they're coming back from serious drug addiction. And to them, vulnerability isn't just seen as a weakness. Vulnerability is a direct threat to their lives. That's really how they see it.
And I'm sure in prison, that's just the reality.
Oh, 100%. It's just a reality, right? And then trying to get them to understand that mindset is not going to serve you well out here. If you can't have a prison mentality if you want to actually create a life outside of prison. That's easier said than done, but I also think, like, when we've repeated this exercise with people at you know, like management level in nonprofits, this list is almost replicated word for word. And again, what's missing is vulnerability. I don't think the average guy thinks of vulnerability as a word that describes masculinity. Right. And I think maybe that's the big problem, right? Like how do you incorporate that into the core belief of what a man is?
Yeah, and I think it should be incorporated because it takes a lot of balls to be vulnerable. It just takes courage.
You know what I think we need?
Courage.
I think we need like
to drink your coffee out of a rose, out of flower mug. See, I'm vulnerable. I'm
That's
comfortable
beautiful.
with myself.
I love you.
You're gonna tell me this isn't tough? You're gonna tell me you're gonna fuck with me?
I'm afraid I'd make you cry. You know what? There should be like a Ford truck 4x4 just called vulnerability.
Yeah,
you know, the Ford vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
You know what?
Yeah.
I'm feeling very insecure and jealous right now.
Yeah. So I'm going to put a gun rack in the back.
Friend and address those cognitive distortions. Boom.
I'm going to drive that truck
grab
over.
My crotch. Seriously.
Yeah. Boom.
It's absolute strength. I believe that.
I mean, did you grow up that way though? Because I mean, I'll be honest. Like in my house, when people were going through something, we didn't talk about it. Yeah, that was like.
Yeah, in our own the Jewish version of that. You don't. You talk, but you don't talk. Speaking of, looking back, I was brought up in Michigan, and looking back, there was. What were the rules of being a man? And I hung out with football players, tennis players, kind of a spectrum of we weren't. I didn't grow up amongst the absolute alpha males, but we were jocks, and that was there. But there was an overall reaching message in the Midwest in the 80s, which was just don't be gay. Seriously. And it was just recycled, and we didn't really know what that meant.
That's funny. We had the same message.
Just don't be gay. Don't talk about your feelings.
Yeah.
We covered it up with a lot of sarcasm. Whatever, dude. Yeah, okay, buddy. It's kind of a sarcastic distance. But I remember this. Every morning, I was living with my mom in West Bloomfield. She would drive me to school, right? And we would stop at the donut shop. And more than once, at a Dunkin' Donuts, a fight would break out in the morning between two guys. Two, like, kind of truck driving kind of guys. It was a regular thing.
Yeah.
And looking back, here's my theory on that. Have you ever noticed donut shops are very stimulating, and there's a lot of colors, and it's vulnerable. I mean, if you walk into a donut shop, you just want to,
All right, I'm letting you run with this. Okay. You want a what when you walk into a donut shop?
You wanna? Oh, it's.
I think it's the sugar. I think you're mistaking sugar for vulnerability.
It taps into a. For the '80s in Michigan, it might as well have been a gay bar. It might have.
Wait a second.
There might have well
no,
been
you
glory holes in
cannot.
this place.
You cannot.
I'm serious. It was buns and jelly
and
filled.
holes and jelly filled. It is so Freudian.
It was so beautiful. There was so many colors, and so when it would become time, I remember it would become time for the trucker to order, and he would kind of, he would give me some of them Long Johns. I remember this. Some of them they're Long Johns. Give me some. It was a vulnerable process.
Could I get that chocolate one with the rainbow sprinkles on it?
And
maybe a bear claw. Maybe like 2 bear claws, like hugging me. You know, like my father never did.
I'm telling you, that it would get to them, and they would and it would turn into this thing. I was first, and they'd be fighting more than once. And my voice, looking back on that, I think it was because it was too vulnerable for them.
Too vulnerable to order a donut.
Go in and order these beautiful, colorful donuts.
You know, that maple bar is bringing something up that I'm not comfortable with. You know what? Fuck you, Clyde. I was here first.
I swear. They would have it out in the donut shop. That's my theory.
That's a pretty color of mauve. What the fuck's happening? I need to punch somebody.
Yeah. Cream-filled buns.
Ooh. Yeah. Do you think things got better or worse once they started to just sell holes?
Let me get back to you on that. I don't know.
Remember that was a revolution in the donut holes? It was just like a round piece of fried cake. It was just like,
let's not touch that. Remember that? Remember that Tom Rhodes bit?
I just saw him yesterday, by the way.
Really? In person?
Yeah, in person. I saw a whole interesting cast of characters yesterday.
Where? Why?
I did a gig in San Leandro. San Leandro does this event every year at their main branch library in the parking lot. Gets like a huge crowd. They do it for free. Comics are all paid well, and Brian Copeland is a part of it because he lives in San Leandro. So Tom Rhodes was headlining the event, and he was there. Tom Sawyer from Cobb's, if you remember, he was. I did not expect to see him. That was an interesting turn. He was just hanging. I guess he was just hanging with Tom. I don't know what the whole. Laurie Kilmartin was there.
Wow.
Nato Green was there. It was an interesting cast of people. But yeah, I digress. Anyway, what was the Tom Rhodes that you were referencing?
Said his brother was really homophobic, and so sometimes Tom would try to get it out of him because he would say funny things. So he said, "Yeah, I was in San Francisco. I was in San. You got to know Tom Rhodes. I was in San Francisco, and they had the Gay Olympics. My brother was like, the Gay Olympics." What kind of events do they have at the Gay Olympics? Eating the donut off the dick contest? It's even worse than I thought you'd say.
That is a good event, though. I have several friends that have medaled in it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple of bronzes, a silver. I don't know a gold medal winner, but
let's get back on track.
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. So
that's okay. Close call. Yes. So again, to me, vulnerability is. If you're a guy out there listening, vulnerability is strong. Take pride in that. Start to reframe that. Like you said, the Ford vulnerable.
The Ford vulnerable goes from 0 to 60 when it gets around to it. It's got to stop and think. What is the destination more important, or is the journey more important?
The Ford reflection.
The Ford reflection. That's their whole slogan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So again,
it doesn't run on gas, it runs on tears.
Reflecting on people that are emotionally connected are good parents. They let their kids in. They fill in blanks for their kids, so they can have a full emotional cycle of things instead of just being confused and angry. Dad's angry now. Just stay away from him.
Yeah.
Wait till he's not angry anymore, and that's your model.
Yeah.
Of anger,
yeah.
is trouble and confusion and
yeah.
anxiety. Think about your kid. If your kid doesn't know what the fuck is happening, nervous system goes up here, and that becomes their normal.
I can remember, like, a couple of times approaching my dad, you know, when I knew something was off, and having my father look at me and go, well, Joe, I don't expect you to understand me. You're adopted.
You're kidding.
I'm kidding.
Oh.
I'm kidding.
Oh.
I know, that'd be terrible. That'd be
Oh,
my
my
mom
God.
would say it, though. My mom would.
Really?
Oh, my God, yeah. My mom would, like, if my brother or I were misbehaving in some way, I vividly remember this. We would get this guilt trip. She would go, do you think your father and I wanted to go out and get you special and have you act like this?
Woo.
Yeah. Yeah, and my brother and I were like, holy shit. She says it like they kept the receipt. You know, like, we could
Classic
return you.
bit.
But it's true. It's true. I mean, that's literally, I mean, she, and as we got older and she would still try to deploy that, we were just like, Mom, come on. You know, you sound like, and I can remember a couple times she would say it in public, and other mothers looked at her like, oh my God, why would you say that to a child? You know, just wants a candy bar, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, and sometimes parents don't think about it. They use the leverage they have.
Yeah. In the moment. Yeah.
Yeah. That's not, I would hug you if I could. That's
Thanks,
a little.
buddy. Well, you know what? Let's
That's a
get
little
into
sad.
my Ford vulnerable, and we'll go around the block
Yes.
a couple of times.
Now, see what we just did. Was that not manly?
That was manly.
Acknowledged feelings. Why am I talking like this?
Well, see, that's where we start to lose the manly.
Okay.
When we start, you know, pick up the rose cup again,
Okay.
and say, Joe, you're strong. I drink to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Now, if you were pouring some whiskey into that, that would be manly.
I could be.
Let me ask you this, okay? Because
Yeah.
here's an interesting thing. I think this is an interesting part of this conversation. What would you say to women who are like, look, I want a classic masculine, manly man. I want the guy who's going to take charge. I want the guy who's going to say, this is what we're going to do. I want the guy who isn't going to sit down and go, hey, I'm having some trouble with some feelings that I'm going through. Can we talk it out? What do you say to the women who are not so supportive of the other version of masculinity?
Right. I would say absolutely to each his or her own. There's nothing wrong with that. Where it goes wrong is when anybody becomes emotionally abusive and controlling.
Ah.
And I would assume nobody, if you like that, that might be perhaps a cycle that is harmful to you. But again, it's not about manliness. It's not about whether you like NASCAR or whether you like cooking or whatever your passions are, whatever your interests are. It's about having enough introspection to be an emotionally intelligent person, so you don't shut down, become emotionally abusive and controlling. And I do think that is an MO of a guy. That is a guy's thing.
Yeah.
Being controlling, being distant, being humorless, kind of pushing their partners away, being passive aggressive. I think men do that in a particular way, and that's all I'm saying is needs to go. And I think there's a balance. And a part of what can help that go is, again, we need to reframe this idea of, for instance, being aggressive is strong, as opposed to being assertive, using your words, using your eye contact, being in control. So the lie is that strength is in raging. You know what I mean? It's strong to be angry and to get into fights. Actually, and I am a shrink, so I got a little credit here. I got my
okay.
Boom. There's my license.
You got a couch.
I'm not licensed.
Wait, you got a license? Where's the license?
Often it's hanging on this wall.
Oh, okay. So you point to the couch.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
There you go.
Often being in a rage is dissociated. It's a part of a fight, flight, very immature dissociation. So you're out of your body, you're out of control. When you're raging and a lot of other kind of emotional outbursts. Your brain is shutting down into a survival mode that we learn when we're kids, and it takes strength to unlearn that. So guys out there, guys out there with the balls hanging off the back of your truck, try some of that manliness. Try some of that being connected to your feelings. Now that's some manliness right there.
That's some manliness right there.
And that's the thing. And then whatever arrangement you have with your partner, whether you're watching football, watching ballet, whatever, be someone that can have a complete emotional cycle and come back around and allow your kids to see, oh, okay, being angry isn't the end of the world. That's a part of life, because he just got angry and then he cooled down and then he made up, and I'm okay now. I'm safe now. I'm emotionally safe.
Safe now.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe compromise. Maybe tackle ballet.
Mm-hmm. Right. Whatever.
You know? I mean, that's a good compromise, right?
Yeah. Mud wrestling, ballet, foxy
boxing. Mud wrestling. Oh, I love it. I love that idea.
Whatever. That's the thing. And that's part of where I also think we as therapists, mental health people, we need to market ourselves more to that side of culture, because it's touchy-feely stuff can be for everyone. I believe that.
Do you think this is a fair statement to make? Let me run this by you, right?
Yeah.
I think in some ways society is ignoring the struggles of men. Mm-hmm. Now, just saying that,
I know
that's a pretty loaded, right? That's a loaded. But when I say it,
it's been good. It's been nice. We had a good run.
Why don't you sit down on the couch? Let me shrink you.
Yeah. Go ahead.
But here's why I say that. I say that meaning everything we've just been talking about, right? Yeah. Like we can't just tell men you need to change. We can't just tell men you need to re-examine what masculinity is. There's got to be some demonstration of it. There's got to be someone talking about it in a positive way. And I think a lot of times what is preventing, and I'm putting this on the liberals, I'm putting this on us, okay? Mm-hmm. I think a lot of times when we talk about, hey, men need to be more open, we're kind of pointing down, and we're being, we're not coming at them in a way that they would understand. We're not approaching them in a way that they might understand. They feel talked down to, disrespected. I can't tell you how many times in these conversations with the men I'm working with that disrespect is such a huge thing. Right? Everything turns on, you're disrespecting me. So many arguments begin. And I feel like if we tell men, hey, you need to change, they're taking it as you're disrespecting me. And I think we need to come up with a better way to approach the guys that need to hear this the most.
Right. Okay, that's a really good point. I would say that...
Fuck yeah, it is.
It's... God damn it.
God
Joey.
Damn it.
Joe.
Oh.
Okay.
But again, how do we approach them?
Frame it in a way that motivates them. So look at it this way. If I say to your average guy, all right, dude. Let me just give me a second. Okay. Let's say we're doing something athletic. We're running, right? We say, okay, this was a good first day. We ran 4 miles. Okay. But we got to do better. Okay? You're being a pussy. Tomorrow we're running 8 miles uphill. Now, is that disrespectful?
I think I mean, it might be disrespectful if there's a woman around, right? But to men, I think they would be like, yeah, I get it. You're motivating me to do better.
So, right. So that's our language. That's a men's language. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do better. Be strong, right? And so
you need to uncover your feelings, you pussy.
Yeah,
is that what
so
you're saying we should go with?
Yeah, something like that. Men thrive on that.
Yeah.
Tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Do you want to be an emotionally complete individual and share the full range of human existence? Or do you want to be a loser, you fucking pussy?
Exactly.
Is that...
Now we have to find the way to communicate that. Because the problem is... excuse me. Hold on.
Yeah, there's a lot... That cup is killing me. I love it. I love it.
Oh, the problem is... I'm losing my voice here. That feelings are complicated. But we need to sell the fact that getting in touch with vulnerable feelings gives you agency in life, and it takes strength.
Gives you control.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want control. So, for instance, your average guy doesn't want to feel shame. They don't want to feel jealous. And they don't want to feel guilt. Because that's scary.
Yeah.
We want to feel angry. I'm going to cover that up and feel angry.
Yeah, yeah.
But the anger makes us out of control, and ultimately, and here, guys, are you listening? Disables you from solving your problems. So that's a manly thing. We want to solve. You want to solve your fucking problems. You know these problems that keep happening and happening. If you become more emotionally intelligent, which is scary but doable, you're gonna be able to have some control over your life. Because feeling jealous is scary, but if I'm aware that I'm jealous, I can probably do something to change it.
Okay. And I think that's a way to explain it.
Yeah.
Let me run this past you, because this happened to me once on a bus in the city, and I bet this has happened to a lot of guys. A similar situation has happened to them, a lot of guys in their lifetime. So I'm riding the Muni bus, and there is I'm sitting next to an old woman. And across from us, there is a young couple that are obviously arguing. You know, she's crying. He is starting to get heated. He's not making any, like, physical gestures towards her, right? But he's starting to say some pretty awful stuff. And everyone on the bus is kind of, like, getting quiet and angry. And the old lady that's sitting next to me turns to me and says, "You should do something." And... yeah, and you know, I did the manly thing. I slapped her and said, "Mind your own business, bitch." No, that'd be terrible. I did not do that. But I looked at her and I'm just like, I'm not sure what I can do in this situation, right? And she just kind of like shrugged her shoulders, you know, and shook her head. And now I felt, okay, what came up for me? I felt shame, like I wasn't manly enough to insert myself. And then, like, 2 stops later, the young couple gets off the bus. Now, I don't know if that was a normal relationship for them. You know, I don't know if that's an ongoing thing. I don't know if that was an awkward first date. I don't know anything about them. But all I remember is now I'm sitting there feeling like less of a man because I didn't do something, I guess, to, like, stand up for this woman. But I've also been in the scenario where I have said something, right? Where I have seen, like, a man, just being really derogatory to the woman on a Muni bus. And, you know, I did say like, hey man, come on. Right. And the guy looks at me, he's like, you shut your fucking mouth up or otherwise, you know, I mean, then it gets really tense, you know, and I'm looking around at other people on the bus and now suddenly everyone's looking down at their shoes. And again, I feel like less of a man. Right. Yeah. So my solution has just been to not ride the Muni bus because, you know, there's too many problems happening on there. But I think there's in a man's life, you encounter these situations where other people are looking at you like, hey, you're the man. You should say something.
I think there's something to that. And I have had a number of situations I felt a lot of shame because I couldn't handle it, because I was physically... Now... This is the perfect balance of what we're talking about. If I can take a moment and notice, I'm ashamed. This does not feel good. The solution might be to go to some martial arts and get more physically confident. So there's nothing wrong. I feel that too. So yeah, I'm a liberal, progressive-y kind of guy, and I've often thought about considering a weapon for my household. I've thought about just self-defense training. It'd be good for me. It'd be good for my son, and to the extent that that's manly, fine. So it's both. It's physical confidence and emotional confidence. But if I'm not vulnerable, I'm probably just gonna push it away.
In the moment, though, right? Like I think I'm weighing it. You know, in my head, I'm weighing it, and I'm like, I'm looking at the you know, I call him a kid, but you know, he's probably in his 20s. He's physically fit. He's a man. You know, and I'm just like, what? You know. I don't know. I kept thinking to myself, like, what could I say and how could I say it, you know, in a way? Because it's just like, hey, you shouldn't be talking to her like that in public. Like, it's not cool, but I know that as soon as I say that, what's probably going to happen, it's going to be something like, shut up, mind your own business, you know, don't disrespect me.
And
now
raging.
Suddenly he's raging.
He's dissociated, and that train is going only in one direction. When shit like that happens, I always feel like, God, I wish I was the kind of guy that could handle this. That's I really do. I would love to be manly in that way. So I have some stuff I want to improve as well, and it's more on the physical confidence side.
You know what's messed up is I think about that moment, not a lot, but I mean it comes up more than I care to admit, and I think about that couple, and I'm not sad for the girl, and I'm not mad at the man. I am resentful at the old woman who looked at me and said, "You should do something."
Really?
Yeah. I resent her for making me feel like less of a man. And in some weird way, that guy and I probably have more in common. I should have looked. This bitch she's in my ear, dude. I'm on your side. We got to get rid of these women, right? This is bullshit. You know what? Let's go get some donuts.
Ba-bum.
Ba-bum. Yeah.
Yeah. I have, I come from a long line of flighters. I am a flight guy.
Flighters.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to admit. I get scared of physical confrontation, and if I'm truthful, I feel like a pussy.
You know, it's weird, like, in a lot of cases, right? So I'm in the Tenderloin, and Tenderloin's historically not a great neighborhood, but I don't feel unsafe most of the time, right? Because I realize, like, most of the people that I'm dealing with, they're not going to hurt me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's some mentally imbalanced people, but it's that what you just described, that rage freight train, like getting in the way of that, getting in front of that, you're setting yourself up to become a target. And a lot of times, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get in between an angry person, right? It's not, but I feel it. I do feel like, man, I wish I was that kind of guy. And then I think about, like, well, yeah, that's why we have the police. I mean, as much as we want the police to be more intellectually intelligent and handle situations without the violence, without the force, without the ordering, I also am like, well, how would they do that? You know what I mean? Like, I've seen enough police videos on YouTube where I think it's obvious this person is having a mental health crisis, and you're coming in with guns drawn, issuing commands. None of that's going to help it. But I also start to realize as I get older, it's like, well, how do you approach that situation? Because the cops don't have training for that either, right? And again, I think of myself sitting on the bus, and would I be more manly if I had a badge and a gun? Would I be more manly if I did have some training around karate or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, would that help, or would that actually make the situation worse? Thinking like, all right, if this gets physical, I'm ready.
Right. Well, let's wrap up this way, okay? I'm going to try this. I'm going to try sharing my screen.
Oh, I didn't know that was possible, but let's do this.
Yeah, I seem to be.
You just gotta share, don't you, Dan? Gotta share your feelings, share your screen.
That's right. Okay.
Oh my God!
You can see it. Okay.
I can see it. Look at this.
Okay.
Yeah,
so,
the wise
I
mind.
want all you men to listen to me, because we're gonna start focusing on emotional intelligence in a manly way. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've got, this is classic dialectical behavioral therapy. Okay. Now, don't be a pussy. Listen to what I'm saying. All right. Wise mind. You have emotional mind. Okay. Hot place. I feel it, therefore it's true. Right? So that's where we are when we want to fight, when we want to yell at our wife, when we want to yell at our kids without any reason, without, kind of get into that rage. Or sometimes it could be total sadness. Then you have logical mind, the cool place, looking at things completely logical, completely rationally. And then you have wise mind, the part in the middle. That's where we want to be. So wise-mind it up, bitches. Okay? Make it happen. You're so tough. You're so fucking tough. Huh? Get to wise mind. Okay? Show me how tough you are. You want to know how you get to wise mind? You get there with a little mindfulness, with a little noticing your feet on the ground. Okay?
Yeah. Take another sip of that petunia cup.
Okay? Five things I notice. Five things I can smell. 5 things I can see. It doesn't sound manly, but it's going to give you control. Okay? Give you control to look at people in the eye, ask for what you need, and fix the problems that you're unable to fix with your alpha male bullshit, all right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. All right. And then when you do that, just go to the bar, get blind drunk, and just go shoot some road signs on the way home.
Fine.
Maybe you'll make it, maybe you won't.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Turn it so we can. There we go. That is beautiful.
On the Splain.
That is gorgeous.
On
the Splain, everyone.
Redefining manhood. Subscribe.
You know what? Be a man and punch that subscribe button. With your wise mind. Punch it with your dick.
We'll see you next time.